Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Carp. I'm Steve Carpenter, Sports Information Director at Hutchinson Community College, and your host for this podcast. Over the course of the last month or so, I've introduced you to many Blue Dragon Athletic Department personnel, and today we are joined by one of my particular cohorts in crime. I am referring to Brandon Sams, the Blue Dragon Sports Network video coordinator and producer. Brandon, it's been a while. Welcome to the show.
It has been a while. Thanks for having me.
Well, you and I co-work together and produce the live streams on the Blue Dragon Sports Network. There's actually a lot to that. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I've always been asking everybody kind of first off, what's the new normal been like for that person? So what's the new normal under this pandemic been like for you?
The new normal isn't too much different than the regular normal, except a lot less sports. I'm working from home, so I'm still producing a little bit of video content, but I'm doing a lot more with my nephew, just to keep my skills sharp, and then just occasional work elsewhere. The hours are a lot more consistent. I'll tell you that.
So let's kind of take everybody through a normal day of setup. Say we've got a basketball game, men's and women's games here at the sports arena. Take us through a day in the life of Brandon Sams.
Okay, a basketball game, back-to-back men's and women's. My day, the games start at 5:30, 7:30, so my day probably starts around on the clock at 2. I show up in my office, make sure that I know what equipment I'm going to take for the day, what cameras do I need, what lenses, what extra equipment for the stream am I going to need, and I make sure that all of that is together. I make sure that we have media so we can record the game so that we can have them later so we can cut clips or archive them as necessary. About 3:30, I am heading over to the arena, and that's when we start setting everything up. The kids that we work with, the great kids like Porter, Orwin, and Selena, Oriana, and Luis Ruiz, who worked with us this year, they show up probably about 3. We get all the equipment together. We head over to the arena, and that's when we start setting up. We make sure the cameras are going into our video switcher to make sure that it's set up with YouTube, and then we shoot the games.
And that can be a daunting task because we're not privy to all this high-tech, high-dollar, multi-million-dollar equipment that you might see ESPN use, or even some local bigger private broadcasting firms. We are obviously a junior college, but we put out a pretty good product, I think.
I think our product is very well put together. I think a lot of thought and care goes into each broadcast. You obviously care about how the product looks and how it comes out. I am of the belief that every day should be better than the one before. So I am always trying to improve not only my craft, but our product. And the kids we got walking with us, we don't just pick them up off the street. They come to us and they want to do this. So they care about what it looks like as well, because they're getting hands-on on the job experience. And that's what's important.
But even at home, there's always technical difficulties. We seem to have a lot more on the road. That has more probably to do with internet strength as opposed to, there are times that we're troubleshooting on the fly, and sometimes we have problems keeping the product on air.
Unfortunately, I hate to say that happens, but it happens. I do subscribe to Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will. And I'm also of the belief that it's not a matter of if, it's when. So you just gotta hold on to your pants and hope it all works out. Sometimes things happen for no discernible reason other than they wanted to happen. I've had times when I've gotten calls from the kids on the road, and they're like, "This happened," and it's never happened before, and it's never happened since. It is a one-time thing that it's hard to figure out, and it's even harder for me to be able to figure out what's wrong when I'm not there.
Have you ever figured out the number of live broadcasts we do per year? Because it's up there.
I honestly have never. That thought has never crossed my mind until this very second, and now I am super curious as to what that number may be.
You figure
it's got to be a relatively high number.
Well, it's well over 100 because you figure we've got 12 football games, a minimum of 60 basketball games between the two. So that's, right there, that's, 78 to probably 82, 83 with Region 6, baseball, softball. Yeah, we're up over 100 per year. And you mentioned it earlier, we couldn't do it without the students that we have on staff. Let's first, let's talk about what kind of entails for a student to help out on the Blue Dragon Sports Network broadcast, and then let's talk about the kids that we have.
Okay, for the kids to help us out, they're usually media students because that's just, they already have a camera in their hand. So if they're interested in sports, then it's the next logical step to hook them up with us and put them to work. We do offer scholarships. We offer scholarships that pay books and tuition, and several students like to take advantage of that. It's a great way to get your school paid for. It's a great way to get on-the-job training, and I like to believe that's just a good experience all around. If the scholarship's not an option, there's always work study. Kids who are interested and may not either A, be eligible for the scholarship, or B, we may not have one available. There's always work study, and then they just get paid per job. They clock in, they work the games, they clock out, and they get to collect a nice little paycheck every week, which I think is a great thing for students because they're working their way through college.
You bet. And that's federal work study, so not everybody qualifies for that. I want to preface that. The kids we had this year, we've had all three of these kids for 2 years now. We've had some exceptional students. One student before you, he's a young man out of Larned, and Gabe Warwick is his name. And Gabe's doing really well. He works with the national tournament broadcast every year. But this is something that you can, if you work here right, and you can definitely move on.
Yeah, I like to keep an eye out just nationally for jobs similar to what I do and to what the students do, just so that I can pass that knowledge along to the students when they're getting ready to leave. And one thing I've told them many times this year is if this is what you enjoy doing, and if you're willing to relocate, there's jobs out there. There's jobs for exactly what we do. There's jobs for exactly what I do. And they're out there. So you just have to be willing to go find them. You have the experience. You can say, I've done this for 2 years at Hutchinson Community College, and that puts you in a really good position to just further your career.
Getting back to the three we've had the last couple of years, Porter and Luis and Selena, three very gifted, very talented young people who really have a chance to go a long way in this business.
They really are. I always say every year I have somebody who just steps up. I'm like, that person is my right hand. I can't function without them. This year, all three of them have been my right hands. They step up when they need to step up. Selena was working with the bookstore, so her hours were a bit more limited than usual, which wasn't great, but we could walk around. And Porter stepped up when he had to help me out and make sure we had a good product going out. And Luis stepped in when he had to. And when Selena was available, she was jumping in and doing her job. It was a pleasure to work with them. They made my life easier. I never had to stress about who I had working because I always knew the job would get done because I had one of them.
Being my video guy is not your only position here at Hutchinson Community College. You work out of Building 12, so tell us what else you do for the college.
sports is the majority of what I do. I would say 90 to maybe even 95% it's sports. If I'm not at a game walking it, if there's a game going on, I'm back in my office with the stream on, making sure everything's going right, watching it, listening, texting who I've got walking to let them know if what's going on, what needs fixed, what's walking. If I'm not doing sport, if there's not a game, then I'm probably backing up the footage from the games. I'm probably cutting something for you. I'm editing something together. And if I'm not doing sports, then I'm probably doing something with the media program itself. Bobby Obermite, the program coordinator, draws me into projects here and there. Dylan lecture series. I've come in and operated the switcher for that. I've ran cameras for it. I've helped on other shoots. What did we do this year? Selena, Luis, and I shot a commercial spot for the campus bookstore to run during basketball games. So I usually have a full plate of something to do.
Now this year, with obviously the pandemic, the college had a virtual graduation. Well, did you have any tasks involved in that?
Yes, I was actually in Hutchinson a couple weeks ago. I helped set up the cameras and the microphones for the virtual graduation, and I sat off to the side just monitoring the audio while Bobby ran the cameras for Dr. File, Dr. Haas, and the other speakers.
That had to be different. That was, obviously something that probably wasn't on the books before March, and you guys really hammered home a nice product. I know all the graduates were very appreciative of what took place on Friday night.
Yes, graduation is one thing I do every year. I do run the switcher on graduation. It was interesting that this year that was not my job. My job was just to help make it happen. And it was not even on the books until early April. So we had 1 month to turn around an entire graduation ceremony, which something like this, a virtual graduation, if we had all year to work on it, it'd be a tight deadline. So 1 month, an absolute miracle. And I've always told my kids when we do sports that our jobs are to put out fires and move mountains. And Bobby really moved an entire mountain range getting graduation done. It wasn't just Bobby. It was David Planthold, and I also helped out. And there were other people involved who, really made this all happen. And, that's the job. That's what we're here for. We're to put out content that walks, and graduation was a really big project and a really important one.
Well, you've seen a lot of Blue Dragon games over your first 3 years with us. Can you pick out some favorite moments?
My favorite moment, and it's of all time, and it's just personally for me. And I tell this story every year at the beginning of softball because it's a softball moment. It's Izzy Godinez. It was either the first or second home softball game. So it was the first day of softball. She hits a bunt that just perfectly rolls down the first base line all the way to the fence. And she's just fast enough that it was an infield home run off a bunt. And I tell that story multiple times every year when softball starts. So I would have to say that is my absolute favorite Blue Dragon moment. And there's a lot of other ones. JJ's buzzer beater 3 at Butler. Mm-hmm. I was sitting there. You could feel the energy because, when we're at home, the camera crew is up in the video deck.
Right.
There's no fans near us. It's just us. We're doing our job. At Butler, we're put up in the bleachers. So there were Butler fans surrounding us. And you could feel that energy because they were just so hyped that they were winning and that they were, barring catastrophe, they were going to beat Hutch. And then catastrophe struck.
Indeed.
And he hits that buzzer beater. We beat them by 1 point, and you could feel the entire room deflate. And it was almost a surreal moment because I wasn't fully in the game as a fan. I was walking the game. I was paying attention to everything else. So just seeing that just wave crash over it was something. And then there was the excitement of winning and the biggest comeback and that shot. I think I cut that shot 3 different times just to make sure I got a good clip of it.
Yeah, it was a crazy night, biggest comeback in Blue Dragon basketball history. You also got to have a unique moment as a Blue Dragon, and I really do mean a Blue Dragon, because for one night you got to be Duke the Dragon.
There are moments in your life that you do something and you say to yourself, I am really glad I had this opportunity. I am really glad I got this moment, and I never want to do it again. And for me, one of those moments was being Duke the Dragon. I have a brand new respect for anybody who puts on a mascot costume. You know, you called me up. You said, hey, it's Blue Dragon night at the Monarchs. We need a Duke. Are you interested? And I am the type of person who I'll do anything once. Let's see what happens. So I did it. Wearing a costume that I have no idea how much it weighs, that heavy, in the middle of the summer was probably not my brightest idea. It was hot.
It was about 90.
And the head, you could have told me it was 112. I would have believed you. The head is so heavy, and they don't tell you that when you put on the mascot head that it sits at your nose. So the fact that I wear glasses the entire time, I have my hand under the chin as I'm dancing, and I'm not just dancing, I'm holding the head up so I can see. And it's just, it was a great experience. You know, the kids, when they see you, they don't see a mascot, they just see a giant dragon, and they want to hug. And that's just really cool to me. And then the amount of offers I had to give me a beer just blew my mind. I didn't expect it. And all I could think of is, I would rather have water. I think I am dying in here.
Nope, you did great that night. And, you've been a great friend the last 3 years. I appreciate working with you every day, and every chance we get a chance to work. I think we put together a pretty good product, and I know we're looking at bigger and better things to improve that product. We really are. I honestly believe, and I've said this since day one, and I will say this till I am blue in the face, if you love what you do, you will never walk a day in your life. And I really don't. I really don't walk that much. I absolutely love what I do. I love being able to put out a good product. I enjoy who I work with. You and I don't think have really ever had a bad day working together. Yeah. We've had some stressful days. We've had some hard days, but I don't think we've ever had a bad one. And I absolutely love what I do. I try, if I can, I try to get a camera in my hand at least one time per season. So football, I try to be down on the sidelines at least one time. Basketball, same thing. So 6 times a year, I try to get a camera in my hand. Unfortunately, I'm more of a supervisor anymore, so I usually have to let the students have all the fun because that's what they're here for. That's right. But I love what I do. I love getting to teach them how to make it work. And then halfway through the first semester and definitely most way through the rest of the year, and especially the second year, I don't have to teach them much. Especially this year, the kids, they took to it, they knew what they were doing, and they really didn't need me. That was a sentiment I expressed many times. I would be like, hey, did we do this? And they said, yeah, we already did that, this, and this. I said, why am I even here? You guys don't need me anymore. So, and it's a really nice thing to be able to say that. Well, again, we appreciate it, and thanks for taking some time to talk to us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I will always take any opportunity to talk about the program, talk about the opportunities we give students, and just to talk about our experiences. I think more people need to understand what we offer students and that there's so many more things students can do at Hutch than just take classes and play sports. There's so much more we can do around the sports. If playing them's not your thing, maybe you want to shoot them, maybe you want to be a photographer, maybe you want to scout them. There's so much that we offer as a school and as a program, and I think everybody just needs to be aware of that.
Yeah. Thanks again, Brandon. That was Brandon Sams, Blue Dragon Sports Network video coordinator and producer, and that's going to wrap up another episode of Conversations with Carp. We'll talk to you again soon. So long, everybody.